Hello, everyone. Yes, I know my face cam is really dark. I have no idea why. I'm using the same light I always use, but semantics. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the quality of my lighting setup or the lack thereof. We're here to talk about Kid Appeal Transformers, the characters that drive the shows, because that is the one that everyone focuses on. Half the episodes are about them. They are the toy that is marketed. They are the characters marketed. And yes, it's usually a Bumblebee, but not always, because there's a few certain factors to a Kid Appeal character that have to be met. For starters, it has to be the one that is either hip and cool with the kids, so the one who's acting like a cool character. It has to be, or you could potentially also be the first character that the humans were in contact with in that particular series. That is also a possible criteria. And another big criteria, and probably the most important one, you've got to be yellow. They do focus group things. Yellow is just a universally liked color amongst kids. They've researched this. So, yellow. Almost always yellow. So, 3 criteria to meet to be a Kid Appeal character for a series. Generally, it's just easy to spot. It's the most heavily marketed one. Pretty simple, right? So, the question today is, why do so many of the Kid Appeal characters get bad toys? This is the bad toy guy talking here. I know what I'm talking about, and it just seems to be, it's not a universal, but more often than not, for whatever reason, the most marketed character in a series ends up having the worst showing on the toy aisle, and that's just bizarre to me. So we're going to go over and examine it today. Before we do, I am giving a quick shout out to my friends over at Entertainment Earth. So in the link below, they're doing their last minute holiday shopping sale where a ton of stuff is up to 60% off. And I'm leaving you a link in the description because if you use my link, you get another 10% off of the sales that are already going on. And then there are free shipping discounts as well. So if you're using that link, comes back to me, helps this channel go while you're still getting your toys and while you're making a lot of deals on them too. So I like to show off the sales because I want you to have like as many of those deals wrapped up together as possible, and all of that stacks. So it's a great opportunity to get a hold of some really nice stuff. All right, there's my plug out of the way. Thank you for using that link, by the way. So we have to start where Kid Appeal starts, and that of course starts with G1 Bumblebee, who I would almost argue was not designed to be the Kid Appeal character, because the original contact with the humans and the ones that Spike was supposed to be friends with at first was Hound. That was kind of the one they were leaning toward. Plans change, things shift, Bumblebee gets the nod, and after More Than Meets the Eye, all of that human interaction kind of goes to Bumblebee rather than Hound. So we do kind of talk about it. And for G1, he's fine. Your basic figure. Pretty much typical. Right? But this is before they started like heavily marketing the Kid Appeal character and making them such a focus of the brand every year. Bumblebee didn't get another toy until Pretenders, and then another one in Action Masters, and that's pretty much your lot. There's a period of Goldbug in there somewhere too, so technically the character has more toys in G1 than most other characters do, but it wasn't a heavy focus is the point. Though I will admit, that Bumblebee toy was around for 3 years, and it's very few Transformers who got to stick around on the toy shelves for 3 years. It's pretty much Bumblebee, Soundwave, and Starscream. That's pretty much your lot. If we move on, we can look at Cheetor as well. Again, yellow. Technically connected with the humans first. They weren't humans yet, though. He's at least trying to babysit them for a while. He's not bad. For Beast Wars, this one's okay. This one's like kind of up on par figure. Like in hindsight, yes, there are flaws and weaknesses. He's really bulky for a cheetah. But you know what? For the toy line itself, he's not bad. He's articulated, the transformation's fun, nothing really harmful. The kibble's even handled okay. But if we want to go even further, we can look at this one. I'm sorry to make you look at this one. So somehow, with superior engineering, With more than a decade's worth of superior engineering and time to improve Transformer technology, they somehow produced this monstrosity. Which, yes, the cheetah actually has proportions you would expect of a cheetah, and then you get to the robot, where now he has massive kibble issues. Now he has stunted articulation, very strange proportions, ninja stars. Someone decided he needed ninja stars all of a sudden, and for some reason, a very cat-like face to the face sculpt, which is not really accurate in the least. So yeah, Cheetor's hat. So Cheetor's first toy, great. Cheetor's second toy, well, second toy of his original form. So, we don't need to talk about that. Now, Cheetor was not the kid appeal of Beast Machines, which is weird because he's kind of like sub-commander, and then like for a while he's like the leader of the Maximals. So like he's got the yellow thing going, and he was a previous kid appeal, but he's grown up, so he's not kid appeal anymore. Who was kid appeal in Beast Machines? Unfortunately, that was Night Scream. This was the hip and cool for the kids character. And I think everyone universally hated this toy. I'm sure there's people who liked it. Don't get me wrong. Universal's probably an exaggeration, but this toy was wildly unpopular. Ugly brown plastic that was extremely brittle. Even for translucent plastic, this stuff breaks so easily. You're seeing a very rare intact Night Scream on your screen right now. Ugly robot mode design. I still don't like the hair flippy dangle thing. And yeah, they tried to, like, between the fact that you knew they were trying to push this character as something special. One, he was huge. He was wildly out of proportion with everybody else. Also, he was one of the very few characters who actually got his own box art on the boxes. At a time when it was always either Cheetor in year 1 and Primal in year 2, Night Scream actually got his own unique art on the box. They really wanted you to think he was special. In hindsight, we know he is not special. The toy is terrible, and the character was not great either. But it kind of flows in with the pattern here. And that brings us to another cool with the kids type character in Sideburn. Out of the Autobot brothers, I would call him the worst. Now, vehicle mode, great. Vehicle mode looks fine. It's a Corvette. Nothing really wrong with it. It's that robot mode and how overcomplicated that toy is, considering that it's almost like 90% shell. He's got kibble hanging off his shoulder, big shield, kibble hanging off one arm. His weapon is kibble. He's got big kibble on his hips and off his back. He's a mess of a toy. Considering he's almost all shell, I have no idea why that toy was ever so complicated to transform. To this day, I hate transforming this figure, even though I know how to do it by heart. It's just a frustrating toy, and I can't imagine a kid trying, back then, trying to mess with this toy. The other Autobot brothers were just so much better. They were more concise. They were more streamlined, and they looked better. So it's an unfortunate thing. And Sideburn, considering it was supposed to be an anime in Japan, it's hard to really gauge if he really was supposed to be the kid appeal or not. He just ended up kind of shunted into that role for the American toy line and the American cartoon. This is a good point to mention. Because I'm not as familiar with it, I have not included any of the kid appeals from the Japanese series. So I know Tasmania Kid is one of those. We do not include him here because I'm just not familiar enough with the character. The toy itself is okay, though. I'm not going to knock the toy on that one. How many times? How many times can I make it a point to remind everybody that I do not like Hot Shot in any way, shape, or form? This was supposed to be the modern Bumblebee. If trademarks had worked out, he would have been named Bumblebee. And then this happened. Yeah, terrible arm articulation, really awkward gimmick, really, really hampered by the gimmick overall. About good leg articulation and a okay vehicle mode is about all I can really credit him for. I still hate this toy. I still, to this day, hate this toy. I can admit I might have been a little harsh on it, but I still hate this toy. But you know what? It could always be worse. It could always be so much worse. I made a name for myself hating Armada Hotshot, but I will be the first one to tell you Energon Hotshot is a way, way, way worse toy. Way worse toy. Terrible arm articulation, terrible in proportions, half the cars hanging off his back or off the back of his legs. He is just not a fun toy in the least. He's just super awkward figure. Super awkward figure. But not the kid appeal of Energon, right? Because he didn't have the bond with the kid, and he was not cool with the kids type character. Again, he was in a commander role. So now we have to go and talk about Ironhide. I've said many times in the past, I think the toy gets a bad rap. It's an okay toy. It's not Plastic Addict bad. It's an okay toy with some weird flaws to it. But I don't think it's a terrible toy. It's just low. It's just low on the totem pole for Energon is all I think. So we kind of give this one a pass. Kind of give him a pass. But I know back in the day, this was a super unpopular toy. Super unpopular toy. And I think that has to do with some of those weird flaws the toy has, for one. But also just the character was terribly delivered too. So that didn't really help. I digress. If we want to get into some really bad, we want to get really bad into these comparisons. I could talk about Cybertron Hotshot too, but once again, I don't feel he was the kid appeal. Little connection with the kids, not yellow, and he was cool with the kids kind of character, but technically it's Landmine because he's the one that makes the bond with the kids first, and he's yellow, so that's 2 check marks compared to 1. And if we talk about that, Landmine is, again, okay for Cybertron. He does have a lot of junk hanging off of him, and admittedly, probably the worst Cyberkey gimmick in the first wave especially. But he's an okay toy. But you can see where, like, if the character is the one that you're putting out first and foremost for the kids and for to be, like, the main star of the show, you really need that toy to be really good. Like, you want to deliver on the hype you're bringing, and if it's a subpar toy, you're not doing the character justice, and you're not marketing the right character. Market the cooler characters. Hotshot in this series had a great toy, but I feel like they tried it with Landmine instead. It doesn't really work out. Landmine's an okay character. Toy, also just okay. And then we get into the bad again. We get into the bad. So Prime RID Bumblebee is, when you compare it to others from the toy line, when you compare it to Ratchet, for instance, when you compare it to the Viacon, or I'd even say like RC, like even keeping into the deluxe class, the Bumblebee is just not good at all. I do not like how his automorph works. Half the time it doesn't even work because it doesn't bring the head far enough down. I feel like they tried to get it too complex, and it makes the toy suffer. Once again, intrusive gimmicks are evil, and they need to stop doing it, which they kind of have, because now it's either all gimmick or no gimmick as far as a Transformer goes. The gimmick did not work, and because of the gimmick, the head set really high and the shoulders sat really low, gives you these really awkward proportions, and really doesn't represent the character very well in the cartoon. It's a disappointing figure. It's a really disappointing figure. And I feel like this starts a chain of disappointing Bumblebees leading the way on the toy shelves. So let's talk about RID 2015 Bumblebee. And now I will admit, my experience is soured because the one I bought was kind of jank in a transformation. The back panels on the legs that were supposed to form his heel spurs didn't transform correctly on mine, so mine couldn't stand upright. I don't know how universal that was. Some other people told me, yeah, mine's fine. I don't know what's wrong with yours. But I always disliked this toy. Even that aside, even if it could stand up, it's still doing things I don't like. I don't like how the feet fold down this way, because that means it can very easily fall over if that joint is loose. I don't like how, it's a little more simplistic. But of course, it's a warrior class. Like, this is the first warrior class. So, I can't really harp on simplistic. Now, can I? I don't know, it just wasn't my flavor of Bumblebee. I felt like Strong Arm and Grimlock got more interesting toys than Bumblebee did. Once again, kind of pushing this idea in my head that, Bumblebee just, it's not even if he's bad in his own toy line, it's that he's, there's other figures in the toy line doing it better, and I feel like your star character should always be doing it best. So once again, this is where I bring up, it's a little bit disappointing to me. Then we move into Cyberverse, where this is our first Bumblebee toy, and I think even if you were a kid buying this, I'm sure there's kids who enjoyed the toy, but my God, because of the gimmicks, the arms are terribly out of proportion. Like his right arm is sitting like here, like it's like bursting out of his like lower pec or his rib cage. It's not sitting where his shoulder should go. And this is where they started getting heavy in the gimmicks again, where they didn't really know how to work the gimmicks into the budget, meaning you got a really subpar experience as a transforming toy. So this is kind of how Kid Appeal toys go, like the majority of the time. We've had some okay ones, we've had some like really terrible ones, but when it comes to like characters that are really well presented in the show, having to have good toys, it's actually kind of rare, but it does happen. When Cyberverse introduced a deluxe class, we got a really nice Bumblebee. I don't really have any complaints about this one. It's a really nice, middle budget kind of figure. Nothing really to say about it. And then we got, like I said, if we want to consider Hot Shot a Kid Appeal character in Cybertron, I thought his toy was really, really good. Maybe a little bit stunted in the articulation, but a really smooth figure and really, really nice looking. And then we get into like the very first Prime Bumblebee, which is technically the first edition Bumblebee. This was supposed to be the budget scale they had for the toy line. The first edition was supposed to be what we got for the entirety of Transformers Prime. But at the time, it was also just kind of rolled into the current generation's line, so it might have even been a short-run toy line with a full toy line to come. It was a really weird situation with those Prime first editions. Either way, this is what the first Bumblebee toy technically was for the series, and it was actually a really, really nice one that represented the character in the show way better than the mass-produced RID version. And then we got to the Kid Appeal I didn't even talk about because there's really nothing bad to say about animated Bumblebee. I mean, again, a little bit stunted in the shoulder articulation. Why is that a running theme? Why is it a running theme to have limited shoulder range on a Kid Appeal character? But the toy itself is fantastic. I love the engineering on this toy. I love how smooth it transforms. I love how it manages to transform that round shape into such a nice looking and like pretty spot on to the show robot mode. All of Animated did that really, really well. So it is possible for the Kid Appeal of a show to actually have one of the best toys. But it does just kind of make me wonder, why is it that they always turn out so bad when they're when they're supposed to be the main character and you'd want kids to be happy with them? And there's that cynical part of me that says like, well, they can phone it in with Bumblebee because it's Bumblebee. It's going to sell no matter what. And the other part of me is like, well, they're all, I mean, if it's the Kid Appeal, if it's the main star of the show, it's almost always going to be a Wave 1 toy, and Wave 1s traditionally do not have as good of engineering as later waves once they are more adjusted to the budget. Okay, then those are arguments to make, and those are fair points, but it does still raise this odd question of why do they more often than not turn out subpar, or at the very least worse than other figures in their lineup when you would expect them to be the best. So that's really all I'm kind of bringing up here. And then to round it off, let's just point out the fact that this is an ongoing roller coaster for movie Bumblebee. His starting figures were okay. They're actually, and I would say good for the time. And then we have this roller coaster. I thought Canon Bumblebee was not as good. I actually thought a Dark of the Moon Bumblebee was better, better than the deluxes before. And it just rides that wave right until we get to the Bumblebee movie Bumblebee, who is horribly inaccurate and has a whole lot of problems to him. So that is an ongoing disaster, and I have yet to weigh in on whether or not it is there are more above the level or below level for the movie Bumblebee toys. Let you decide that one for yourself. But for now, just wanted to present this weird little thing, this weird little running thing of Transformers, and what's supposed to be the main character not really getting the respect I think he deserves on the toy shelf. So, that's what I got for you today. Thank you guys for watching. Hope it raised a little bit of discussion, and I'm sure someone's mad at me for insulting their very first Bumblebee or Cheetor toy. That comes with the territory. That's part of the job. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. And I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.